This guy is now 30 years old and still a virgin. Somehow, that turned him into a wizard. Whenever he touches someone, he can hear their thoughts. At first, he planned to use this strange gift to find out whether any girl liked him, but he didn't even have the courage to touch one. One morning at work, George saw a crowd waiting by the elevator. He sighed, feeling hopeless about his life. Just then, John came over to check on him. John had this natural charisma he shone wherever he went. Even the girls around couldn't take their eyes off him. Watching John easily chat with them made George feel a sting of jealousy. So, George decided to sneak a peek into John's mind. What he heard completely shocked him.
Lucky me. I didn't think we'd run into each other. It'll seem suspicious if I stare too much, but that bedhead is driving me crazy.
He thought maybe John had a crush on someone in the office, but as he looked around, there wasn't a single girl with messy hair. Suddenly, someone bumped into him, and John grabbed him, pinning him gently against the wall. That's when George heard John's thoughts again, and realized that the adorably messy-haired person John liked was him. Back at his desk, George couldn't believe it. He told himself it was just his imagination, maybe he was hearing things. Then his boss showed up, reminding him to finish the report before the day was over. Late that night, when George was still working overtime, John stopped by and offered to help. George heard his thoughts again. John wished George would lean on him more. Trying to act calm, George took the drink John handed him. He kept telling himself it was all in his head, but when he passed John the files, their fingers brushed, and he caught John thinking about the small mole on the back of his neck, and how much he wanted to lick it.
1 sec, I gotta whiz!
George rushed to the bathroom and checked in the mirror. Sure enough, there was a mole there. That's when it hit him, John really did like him. When they finally finished their work, it was already late. Thinking about John's feelings made George nervous, and he instinctively took a few steps back. Outside, George sneezed from the cold, and John wrapped a scarf around his neck.
Thank goodness I brought a scarf today. I can't leave him all alone out here.
Jeez, what a nice guy. Now I feel bad for thinking he might go creeper mode on me.
Well, let's head out, shall we?
They kept walking, and George thanked him for his help. John grinned and said, "You can repay me with your body next time." George froze in horror until John laughed and added, "I mean, buy me dinner or something." Then George realized they'd missed the last train. John, ever the gentleman, invited him to stay over at his place, but just the thought of being alone with John made George's heart race. He didn't know what might happen if he went. Still, to figure out what John was really thinking, he decided to touch him again. But when George moved closer, John dodged, and George ended up tripping. Seeing him fall, John reached out to help him up. This time, George only heard John worrying if he was hurt. That's when he realized maybe he'd been overthinking everything, so George agreed to stay at John's for the night.
Of course. Sure thing.
Kurosawa. What the actual hell?